Man, you ever feel like you just blinked and the whole world changed? Like just yesterday, it was all about one.
Totally.
And now it's completely different.
Yeah, it's like trying to keep up with, the latest internet trend. You figure one out and bam, something else takes over.
Exactly. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe.
And I'm Sunny.
Well, speaking of things changing faster than my attention span sometimes, let's dive into what's been shaking up the world lately.
Sounds good. Where are we starting?
That's right. We're kicking things off with an update on those Trump tariffs. Okay, so President Trump has reportedly told 150 countries.
150? Wow.
Yeah, that their tariffs might be heading north if they don't strike a trade deal with the U.S. It's kind of like, let's make a deal or else.
Right. And what's really interesting here is this potential rewind. Like, the tariff hikes could take us back to levels around April 2nd.
April 2nd. Wasn't that being called something?
Apparently some are calling that Liberation Day for tariffs. Bit dramatic, maybe.
Maybe just a bit.
And there's a 90-day pause right now, a timeout on any new increases for all these countries. Started about a week after April 7th, I think.
Okay, so a 90-day pause. For 150 countries, that's a lot of negotiation time.
You'd think the phone lines would be, smoking.
Right. But it sounds like a bunch of countries are actually stepping up, right?
Yeah.
I read most have put forward some very good proposals.
That's the word. To ease up on their trade barriers and stuff.
Very good, huh?
The Treasury Secretary even called them very strong, which is, pretty positive language.
It is. But it does make you wonder, like the Secretary pointed out, why did things get, worse before? Why let it slide?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What were previous administrations doing or not doing?
And what makes these proposals so very good now? Is it just tariffs, or are they tackling the other sticky stuff?
Like currency manipulation, industrial subsidies.
Exactly, that kind of thing.
It seems like it's broader, including currency and subsidies. And while the main focus is on, 18 key partners.
Right, the big ones.
We shouldn't forget all the smaller regional deals that might be cooking.
Okay. So lots happening below the surface, maybe.
Could be. Plus, the Treasury Secretary mentioned that keeping things a little uncertain is actually part of the plan. A negotiation tactic.
Strategic ambiguity. Kupum guessing. Like poker.
Exactly. Don't show your whole hand.
And the end game, supposedly, is that all this haggling helps everyone. Stores, us, workers.
That's the hope, yeah. Retailers, American consumers, American workers all benefit eventually.
Okay, but China, I heard they're the exception.
Yeah, they're being singled out as the only country that actually escalated trade actions after April 2nd.
Escalated, so tariffs went up even more.
Oh, yeah. Pushed levels between the U.S. and China to what's being called unsustainable. We're talking like 145% from the U.S. side.
Whoa.
And 125% from China's side.
Those are eye-watering numbers. Seriously.
Sure.
That could really shake up where things get made globally, right?
Absolutely. Huge shifts in manufacturing, maybe higher prices for us, slower growth for both countries.
And maybe push other countries to team up, trade-wise, without the U.S.
That's definitely a possibility. It makes that previous U.S. tariff the 30% one.
The one that was 10% reciprocal and 20% fentanyl related.
Yeah, that one. Makes it seem almost small in comparison.
No kidding.
And, about those earlier tariffs, the Treasury Secretary suggested that maybe some small businesses complaining now might actually be remembering those older, higher levels, some of which have come down since then, so maybe a perception lag.
That way it makes sense. Things change so fast, it's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk impact. How's this hitting wallets and, Main Street?
Right. Well, Walmart announced price increases on some stuff because of the tariffs, especially goods from China.
Yeah, I saw that. My grocery bill isn't going to like that.
Tell me about it. The Walmart CEO basically said, look, we try to keep prices low, but we just can't swallow tariffs this big. Retail margins are thin.
Right. Which, as some economists point out, kind of shows tariffs are basically a tax on us, the consumers.
Yeah. Pretty much. I know President Trump suggested Walmart should just absorb it.
Yeah, I remember that. Which, again, kind of admits it's a consumer cost.
Right. But then the Treasury Secretary, after talking to the CEO, seemed to indicate Walmart would do a bit of both. Absorb some, pass on some.
A balancing act. Always.
It is. And the Secretary also mentioned, companies like Walmart have SEC rules. They often have to present worst-case scenarios in earnings calls.
Good point. So maybe take it with a grain of salt. Or at least understand the context.
Exactly. Now, what about the smaller guys? the small businesses.
Yeah, I've heard they're feeling really uncertain, squeezed.
That worry is definitely real. A lot of them say the uncertainty itself makes planning almost impossible.
I can imagine.
And those profit margins, like we said, maybe 5–10%, tariffs just eat that up directly.
That's rough. But I also heard, kind of paradoxically, that many of them like the idea of bringing manufacturing back home.
Yeah, it's that rock and a hard place thing, isn't it? There's support for reshoring, definitely. But they also know it's not a quick fix. Rebuilding that capacity here takes time. Years, probably.
And for some things, there's just no U.S. option right now.
Right, like lithium batteries, things like that. China's often the only major source currently.
So it's a long-term dream with some pretty serious short-term pain. Okay, switching gears slightly. Any good news? I saw something about inflation.
Yes, actually. Reports say inflation is declining. First drop in 4 years under President Trump.
Okay. That is welcome news.
And prices for gas and services are apparently easing up, too. The Treasury Secretary seems pretty hopeful inflation will stay stable.
That'd be a relief. Because, man, a lot of people are still feeling that pinch from the really high inflation under President Biden. That stuff sticks with you.
Oh, absolutely. The Secretary acknowledged that, said he understands the unease after, the worst inflation in 40 years. It's understandable.
Totally. So, back to bringing manufacturing home. That seems like a huge priority.
It definitely is. The medium and long-term goal is clear. Get those strategic industries back stateside ASAP. Pharma, semiconductors, steel.
The stuff we really realized we needed during COVID, right?
Exactly. The pandemic just laid bare those strategic shortages.
But are we talking about, completely cutting off China? Decoupling?
Interestingly, no. The administration and President Trump specifically have said they don't want to decouple. They actually want to open commerce with China more.
Huh. Open it more, but on better terms, I guess.
That seems to be the idea. Keep trading, especially for things small businesses need, but work towards lower tariffs eventually. It's a rebalancing act.
A rebalancing, not a divorce.
Okay. But yeah, rebuilding our own manufacturing muscle, that's a long-term project. Years, like we said.
Got it. Years. Okay, well, let's shift continents. This whole Russia-China rare earth situation sounds intense.
It has some serious global implications, for sure. Let's start with Russia and natural gas in Europe.
Right. They used that as leverage, didn't they? Especially with Ukraine.
Big time. And then January 1st, 2025, Ukraine basically said, no more. Refused to renew the transit agreement for Russian gas.
Wow. So they just turned off the tap.
Pretty much shut down that route.
Yeah.
Which effectively ended Russia's long-term dominance in a big part of the European energy market.
That's a massive shift. So where's Europe getting its gas now? They must be scrambling.
They've been working on it, importing a lot more LNG, liquefied natural gas, from places like Qatar and the U.S.
Okay.
And getting more pipeline gas from Norway, too. The EU overall seems to be adapting, but...
But some countries are still struggling.
Yeah, places like Slovakia, Austria, Moldova still face some challenges replacing that Russian supply. It's not easy.
Can't just flip a switch. Makes sense. Okay, now China and these rare earths. This sounds like a real problem for the U.S.
It is a major concern. China's restrictions on exporting these crucial elements.
Which are needed for, everything high-tech, right? Defense, EVs, chips.
Exactly. These restrictions are widely seen as pushback against U.S. tariffs. And the U.S. is, pretty dependent on China for these materials. Their unique properties are just vital.
So if China tightens the screws, we're in a bind.
Potentially, yes. Research points to possible supply chain disruptions, especially for military contractors. We're talking jets, missiles.
Wow. Which specific elements are they restricting?
China's limited exports of 7 key rare earths: samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, lutetium, scandium, yttrium, and also the powerful magnets made from them.
7 elements and the magnets. That's specific. How are they doing it? Just stopping shipments?
It's a bit more subtle. They have a new licensing system. You need a license to export, and it's not automatic. They can just not approve it.
Bureaucratic control.
Plus, they put 16 U.S. companies on an export control list, mostly defense and aerospace.
Targeting specific companies, too.
Yeah.
Ouch. That must be causing chaos. I heard ships were being held up.
There have definitely been reports of port disruptions, yeah. Magnet shipments halted. The big worry is the U.S. just can't fill that gap quickly.
Which is a direct threat to our military readiness, potentially.
That's the fear.
So what are we doing? We can't just sit here.
Well, no, definitely not. There are a few angles. One is boosting our own production. Build a whole domestic supply chain by 2027 is the plan. 2027.
That sounds ambitious. How's it going?
Progress is slow. One U.S. company, MP Materials, aims for maybe 1,000 tons of these magnets by the end of next year.
Okay, 1,000 tons. How does that compare to China?
China's estimated production last year, around 300,000 tons.
Whoa. Okay, 1,000 versus 300,000. That's not even close. It's like trying to grow a forest overnight when China has a rainforest.
Pretty much sums it up. There was also a Trump executive order aiming for processed rare earths and gallium delivery by early 2026. But again, progress seems slow.
So digging it up ourselves is going to take a while. What about buying it from other countries?
They're exploring that too, alternative suppliers. But sometimes diplomatic relations get in the way, like issues with Greenland, for example. So limited progress there too so far.
Obstacles everywhere. Are we stockpiling? Just building up a reserve?
That's another likely strategy. It hasn't been explicitly stated in what we've seen, but stockpiling is a standard move for strategic materials. So probably
a rainy day fund of rare earths. Makes sense. And talking. Any negotiations with China to ease up?
Trade talks are ongoing, always. But as of mid-May 2025, China hadn't lifted these controls.
So not much movement there. They're holding on to that leverage.
Seems like it. Rare earths are definitely a key bargaining chip for them right now.
Okay. What about the really long game? Could we invent our way out of needing these things?
That's the technological hope, right? Long-term, develop tech that needs less or none of these specific elements. But that's not a short-term fix.
And getting them out of the ground and processed is still hard anyway.
Very technically challenging, yeah.
So multiple efforts, but sounds like a tough spot for the near future. Okay, let's shift again, more. Futuristic. Jensen Huang's recent talk, AI.
Yes. NVIDIA's CEO. He has some really big ideas. Sees AI as the new fundamental infrastructure. Up there with electricity, the internet.
That's a huge claim. But you see AI everywhere now, so maybe he's right. NVIDIA used to be just gaming cards, right?
That's how they started, yeah. But they've totally transformed. Now they're a massive provider of hardware and software for data centers, basically building the global AI infrastructure.
So not just for gamers anymore, they're building the AI foundation. Wow. He said AI is like a new type of factory. That makes tokens. That's kind of weird.
It's a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
These AI factories use energy, produce valuable tokens. Think of tokens as units of AI output. A sentence, a piece of code, a recognized image.
Ah, okay. So valuable digital stuff.
Exactly. Insights, data, innovation. He thinks this will be a new global industrial standard, which, raises big questions about jobs, energy use.
Yeah, definitely things to think about. And NVIDIA is good at spotting what industries need, creating markets.
That's one of their superpowers, seems like. And demand right now. Through the roof.
Yeah.
For their components, tech, software, everything.
It must be intense.
He even mentioned emotional customers because competition is so fierce. Meeting that demand is a huge responsibility.
Emotional customers.
Yeah.
I can picture it. If you need that NVIDIA gear for your big AI project, stress.
Yeah.
So they rely heavily on partners. Taiwan.
Absolutely. Works super closely with global partners, especially in Taiwan's supply chain. Their agility, their capacity, like TSMC's advanced CoWoS packaging is crucial.
CoWoS, that's the chip packaging thing.
Yeah, helps connect chips super efficiently. Vital for AI performance.
Gotcha. Teamwork makes the AI dream work. So what's the future look like? His 5-year roadmap.
Right. He laid out a roadmap, helps businesses, governments plan their AI builds. The AI factory idea is central.
And these factories make money, not just cost money like old data centers.
That's the vision. They generate revenue by producing those tokens. They're even talking new efficiency metrics like tokens per second per watt.
Tokens per watt.
Yeah.
Okay. What new tech is coming to power this?
Well, Q3 this year, they plan to upgrade to the Grace Blackwell GB300 system, the Blackwell Ultra chip inside. Big jump.
How big?
1.5 times the inference performance, 1.5 times the memory bandwidth, double the networking capability compared to the last Blackwell.
Wow.
And NVLink, their super fast GPU connection tech, is still key for linking everything up in those massive AI clusters.
So faster chips, faster connections. But what about data bottlenecks? Moving all that information around.
Tackling that too. Developing next-gen networking, things like co-packaged optic CPO and photonic switches. Working with TSMC, Foxconn on that stuff.
CPO. It sounds fancy. Basically faster pipes for the data.
Pretty much. Keep everything flowing smoothly in those giant AI systems.
Okay. Now robots. I heard something about robots.
Yes. Physical AI. They're developing Isaac GR0CRTN1, calling it the world's first open, customizable AI foundation model for humanoid robots.
Humanoid robots, seriously.
Yeah. And collaborating with Google, Disney, on a physics engine called Newton to help robots learn complex tasks. That's expected late next year.
Learning robots.
Wow. Also mentioned platforms like Isaac and Jetson Thor, specifically for physical AI and robotics.
Okay, so digital brains for physical bodies. Wild. What else? Agent AI.
Developing agent AI inference models. They call NVIDIA Dynamo the operating system for AI factories to run these models faster, bigger.
An OS for AI factories.
And they announced an open model series, Llama Nematron, so developers can build their own agent AI. Think of agent AI as like digital robots. They understand, they act, but in the digital world.
Digital robots. Okay, what can they do? What kind of skills?
They envision AI creating all sorts of new digital skills. Digital drivers, digital assembly workers, that's the physical robots, again, digital customer service bots, digital employees.
Digital everything.
The idea is AI goes beyond data centers, enhances human capabilities everywhere.
It sounds like a completely different world. You mentioned digital biology, too.
Yeah, super exciting field. Using NVIDIA tech to crunch biological data, design new proteins, could totally change drug discovery using computation.
Using AI to design medicines.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, he was in Taiwan recently. Big presence there.
Huge. Announced a new NVIDIA HQ in Taipei, in Beitushilan, called NVIDIA Constellation.
Cool name.
Building Taiwan's first large AI supercomputer, AI for Taiwan, really investing in the local ecosystem.
That partnership seems critical, especially with TSMC, the chip maker.
Absolutely. Huang highlighted TSMC's tech lead like 10 years ahead of competitors like Intel in advanced chipmaking.
10 years, wow.
And even with U.S. efforts to reshore chipmaking, TSMC in Taiwan is expected to keep making almost 80% of the really advanced stuff by 2035.
Still dominant.
He also noted Taiwan's big electronics firms are diversifying production globally, which might help with trade war impacts, though smaller firms might still struggle. And he listed a ton of Taiwanese companies, hinting at that shift towards physical AI applications.
So Taiwan's really central to the hardware side of AI.
Yeah.
But challenges too, right? Powered supply.
Definitely. Economic growth brings challenges. Power is a big one, especially with data centers needing so much green energy.
And they're phasing out nuclear.
Yeah, relying more on natural gas and coal. And there are even whispers about China pressuring Qatar over Taiwan's gas supply. Adds another layer of risk.
Wow, geopolitics and energy impacting AI. It's all connected. Okay, one last big topic. Warren Buffett, the Oracle himself, heard he was worried about the U.S. dollar.
That's putting it mildly. At the shareholder meeting, he said, and I quote, "We're obviously not going to invest any money in a currency when we think it's going to hell."
Going to hell. That's blunt. Even for Buffett. What's his beef with the dollar?
It seems tied to the U.S. fiscal situation, the deficit, government inefficiency, and also using trade policy as a weapon.
Ah, the tariffs again.
Yeah, he specifically mentioned the U.S. 145% tariffs on China, China's 125% retaliation, sees it as worsening global tensions. He criticized weaponizing trade.
Which sounds like a dig at maybe President Trump's policies.
You could read it that way. His core worry seems to be irresponsible fiscal policy, devaluing the dollar over time. And historically, when someone like Buffett says that, it can make other investors nervous, maybe look elsewhere, which could actually speed up the very thing he's worried about.
A self-fulfilling prophecy, sort of.
Yeah.
But didn't he also say he was optimistic about U.S. businesses long-term?
He did. That's the interesting part. In the same meeting, huge confidence in American capitalism, called it extraordinarily successful, said global prosperity helps everyone.
So, worried about the currency, but bullish on the companies. How does that square?
It's a complex picture, isn't it? Maybe shows you can worry about government finances, but still believe in the underlying strength and innovation of the private sector.
A bit of a paradox, but maybe realistic.
It really highlights the different forces at play right now.
This has been quite the deep dive. Tariffs, rare earths, AI factories, robots, nervous billionaires. It really feels like everything's connected and shifting constantly.
Absolutely. Tariffs impact tech supply chains, which impacts AI development, which relies on global partners facing energy and political pressures. It's all linked.
So wrapping this up, with all these massive global shifts we've talked about, what do you think is the single biggest opportunity or maybe the biggest challenge facing the world economy in the next few years?
That's a great question to ponder.
Definitely something for all of us to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.